What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Dig It podcast. I'm your host, Drew Walsh, and we are very, very fortunate to have the Coach Meg Rem back for season 2. If you haven't listened to season 1's podcast with Coach, then what are you doing? Go back and check it out. We kind of really go in depth on her background story, which we may touch on, but nonetheless, we have so much to dive into. It's going to be such an amazing podcast. Coach Meg Rem, welcome back to the Dig It podcast.
Thank you. And thanks for having me again.
Of course. Our pleasure. We have some exciting things happening. That I don't want to gloss over that wasn't maybe happening on season 1. Congratulations on the soon-to-be baby. Do we know agenda?
We do not. No, it's I wanted it to be a surprise, and I really had to convince my husband, but we've got hopeful. I mean, I'm 38 weeks, so I'm hoping any day now. I don't really want to go 2 more weeks, but we'll see what the gender is.
My wife went like 41 weeks in like 2 days.
No, don't say that out loud.
We also did a surprise as well. It's like the most nerve-wracking part was going into all these checkups and trusting that the nurse or the doctor wouldn't dispose of the gender because they have the information in front of them. We're like, I almost like found myself being like, hey, good morning, by the way, we don't want to know. Please don't tell us.
I do because I'm afraid, because where I go, there's like 8 different doctors, so you see a different one almost every time, and it's like, good morning, don't tell me. They're like, we know it's in your file. I'm like, hey, just making sure.
I know. So awesome. That's it. And, when you talk to people who did the same thing, it's just like there's not that many great surprises in life. And listen, it was tough at times because you want to think about how to prepare, you want to envision, but it's like, it's going to be what it's going to be. It's going to happen. It's going to be the most special moment with your family. And I'm super excited for you and your family. It's such a special moment.
Yes.
But anyway, yes, of course. Here we go. So, what's the past 6 months been? I know we took some not time off, but listen, you travel all the time, which we'll dive into, which is super special. But I know that's kind of slowed down the past couple months. But how is our end of last year, early this year? What do we got going on?
Yeah, so last year was great. I did over 100 clinics all over the country. My last clinic was, it was really great. It was, I say exhausting. And I know we just kind of touched on this earlier. It's just the actual physical, get on the plane, go into a hotel travel part, that was really exhausting, but the actual clinic part, it was great. I stopped traveling. My last clinic was in December, the end of December or the middle of December. And I actually did my first coach's clinic with my brother and my dad and my hitting coach growing up. And then I did a parent-daughter clinic, which was, cannot wait. I'm doing another one this year. I cannot wait. It was awesome. So ended traveling the middle of December. And then since then, I've been doing lessons here and there. I did another coach's clinic where I live in West Palm. And now I'm helping coach a 14U team. We started, I think, in the middle of January. So I probably only have like a week or so left with them. So.
All righty. What do you think would be the biggest difference as far from a coaching perspective from doing, maybe some lessons and clinics right to coaching a team? What are the dynamics that you think most jump out?
Of skills that we are working on. And obviously in lessons, if you see kids frequently, you're going to build off those fundamentals and those skills and those drills. But with the team aspect, which I used to coach a team a while ago, and I absolutely loved it because I don't know, it's just something special. You see these girls a couple times a week. You can work on the same thing. Let's say, we practice Tuesday, Thursday. You can work on the same thing twice a week, and then you just see the progress. And I love situations and actually teaching the game opposed to just, you do lessons. you're mainly doing drills, so you can't really talk about the game, it's just tough to talk about the game in lessons. So teaching them the game, situational awareness, and all of that is I'm really enjoying it. And obviously going to games and coaching them there
Yes.
is so much fun.
That's such a great point, because when I got done playing, I jumped in more to the, college coaching sector, and it's a game strategy. Like, the ultimate goal now is to win, and you have many facets and moving parts to achieve that goal that also change within the moment, pitch to pitch. So it's not so much about, all right, lane 2, lane 4, backhand, forehand. There's not so much specificity to it. It's more of like a global step back, kind of see what's going on, because a lot of other people affect what's going on, right? Like, I think,
Yeah.
and I'm guilty of it too. I get, I coach infielders on a daily basis, and I miss that. I'm like, dang, like, I don't have as much control over the game strategy part. And listen, we talk about the mental side of things, and I try and, like, based on the dialogue that they give me, like what they're working on, what things they may need to address. But that's one thing I definitely is special, is like working all week for months to go compete and getting the game really giving you that feedback by win or loss.
Right. And it's one of those two at games, and we've only had one tournament so since I've been with them, because we're in Florida, so we get to do that. But it's just so rewarding. Like, in the beginning, a lot of situations we went over. I don't want to say they didn't know how to do it, but there were just so many small details that we were teaching them, like, hey, there's a runner on first, shortstop, you got to shade a little bit, or, first base, you're my cut if it's, anywhere but the left field, whatever. So it's just so rewarding to see it pay off and for it to click. And in my opinion, and I'm sure you agree, it's just I feel like we focus so much on drills, which we should. I mean, we got to know fundamentals, but there's not a lot of focus on how to play the game. And I teamed up with Morgan Stewart, and we did a little course that was literally just how to play your position, where to set up for certain situations, because I just feel kids don't really watch games that much. For us, well, for me, I can't really speak for you, but there wasn't softball on TV growing up, so I always watched baseball. And it was always on TV, and it was something like, oh, and I grew up in a baseball family, so it's like, oh, I'm going to watch this game, and that's how I learned how to play the game. But I feel like kids aren't really watching games anymore, which, that's the best way to learn.
100%. It's like, especially when college season just began a few weeks ago, and first week I'm like, hey, did you watch any college softball or baseball? And they're like, well, what? No. I'm like, dude, what do you stop playing Fortnite and go watch the game? It's incredible. There's so
Yeah.
many learning moments. And I think just the energy I like going to a game or watching it, that like it's inspiration that you might be able to be that person one day playing shortstop and stuff, just to reinforce what you're going to do tomorrow, that motivation. And or just be like, hey, they're human. Like, I'm not that far off. Like, I have a chance at this if I continue to bust my butt. I love that. And I
And
think,
sorry, I was just going to say, it just makes sense too. Coaches and parents can talk so much about, hey, I can use an example. There's a runner on first, and we want to set up here because X, Y, Z. And, kids and even high schoolers are like, they'd be like, okay. But when you actually see it in motion, it just visualizing and see, it makes so much more sense. So it's like parents and coaches can talk till they're blue in the face, but if the kids don't really like understand the why behind it, they're like, okay, sure.
I couldn't agree more. And to stay on like the game setting, um, there's so many dynamics. There's so many coaching moments in a game, right? Like, there's so many things going on mentally, physically, strategically, right? And then there's also just like the environment, the spectators, opposite coaches, adversity. This is a huge topic to unravel. And one question that we did get, I posted on the story, what topic should we discuss? And one of them was the mindset, like the mental side of the game. And that's super broad, coach. But, when you hear the mental side of the game, what starts to jump out of you?
Oh man. There's so much. I would say being able to make a mistake, which we really need to make sure these athletes understand whatever sport you're doing, you are going to make mistakes. And it's tough with social media. We didn't grow up with social media, so we didn't have to compare ourselves to other people. Our comparison was what our teammates were doing. So there's just so much out there that we know social media is highlights, even mine. And I post my mess ups here and there, which the people love, which I'm like,
I
okay,
love that.
I
You're
need to post
human.
more. But it really is like it's even if you work 100% giving your effort day in and day out, unfortunately you are going to make mistakes. So it's just figuring out how to bounce back from that. And I was the type of athlete, I I wasn't when I was younger, I struggled with the mental part because I would make a mistake and I literally thought the world was ending. It was like I screwed this up for the whole team. I suck. No one's going to want me to be, coach isn't going to want to put me out on the field. And I didn't really have anyone talk me through that, and I know you're kind of the same too. It's like, I'm sure you talk to your athletes. It's like, hey, guess what? You're going to mess up. You can be mad for maybe a minute or two, minute max. And then you just got to turn the page. And, if your coach is putting you back out there, they have faith in you. If they didn't, they're going to be like, okay, you're out, which that's another thing for coaches. Hey, I can't stand when I hear girls come to me and they're like, I made an error and my coach benched me. I'm like, now, and if you're not paying attention and giving less than 100% effort, sure. But again, errors are going to happen.
100%. I think there's so much. We could have 5 different podcasts on that last statement. But I think one thing that jumps out to me is the game can't define your identity. It can't define your self-worth, right? Like it's a huge part of who you are, but it can't be who you are only, right? Because that's such a slippery slope to ride, because the game is full of peaks and valleys. And if you allow your metrics, your performance to dictate who you are, it's not healthy, because we know you're going to fail so much. So the relationship with failure and how you perceive failure is super important for you to continue to enjoy this game. Not just play it, because you could play it and hate it, but to truly enjoy this game for what it is, a game. You have to love that game to show up the next day, but you have to understand what it's trying to tell you. The game is such a beautiful teacher, and I think coaches and parents get in the way of that. They're getting in the way of the student. They don't want the kid to feel bad. They don't want the kid to fail. They don't want the kid to not have success. And it's like, no. That's the lesson. That's the whole lesson. The sports is the whole lesson, teaching the student. Now we have facilitators as coaches and parents. Like we have jobs and roles within that classroom, but the game's the ultimate teacher. And I think that's where it gets lost. Like the mental side, to me, there's many facets, but I think when someone says that, my perception is like, how do I deal with failure? Just like you said, like, how do I deal with not, working really hard, which is just the prerequisite, right? That's 101, working really hard. The game doesn't owe you anything. So, the game's trying to teach you when you fail that what you're doing isn't working, and it's not personal. It's just feedback. So, when we talk with our infielders, right, we talk about, baseball or softball labels infield as a what? The defensive sport, right? And they're like, yes, but we got to play offense. Our approach to infield is offensive. We're okay with failing. We're not happy with it, right? But we understand that it's a stepping stone to maybe execute the next play better, or to move forward in my development. We play fast. We take chances because it's not about us, and we want to get that girl in the circle or guy on the mound back in the dugout, and that's my only responsibility. So I think, Coach, anything on that?
Yeah, and that's a great point, because that's where I struggled. And I specifically remember when it was I think it was my sophomore, junior year, when you're being heavily recruited for college. I was correlating striking out or trying to make this fantastic backhand play, making an error. To me, in my head, I was like, I failed. And I didn't realize, let's say I had a fantastic at bat and I was working the pitcher in 10 pitches, and then maybe I swung and missed on a fantastic pitch. In my head, I'm like, I suck, I'm not great. And it's what college coaches see is, wow, that was a really good at bat. Or like you said, playing offense on defense, going for a backhand pick on the run, trying to throw it on the run. Maybe I threw it wide right or wide left. And in my head, I'm like, terrible. But it's like, no, what? She got to that ball, first of all. No idea how she did that. Second, she's trying to push herself out of her comfort zone. And so, realizing not everything is failure, which obviously it goes in the books as an error or a strikeout, but it's as long as you're pushing yourself, like good things are going to happen. Now, yes, you'll still make errors, but the good's going to outweigh the bad.
100%. I just think in the micro, it stings, right? No one wants to make an error. Johnny didn't want the ball to go underneath his legs. Parents, we understand this. No need to yell at little Johnny to catch the ball. He understands that. So that kind of made me lose my train of thought because I see that so often. But I think back to the micro.
Well, I had my sorry. I had my hitting coach. My hitting coach did growing up. He did the coaches clinic with me, and that was a big topic he talked about. We're parents mainly and coaches, but we're screaming at kids who are striking out, and then they're afraid to swing, and then they're like afraid to go up to the next at bat because they don't want to get yelled at, and then their at bat is just obviously terrible. And he made a really good point, is like, we gotta, swing hard and don't yell at them for striking out. Cause again, it's going to happen.
Back to, okay, real quick. Micro failing stings. It hurts. It's frustrating, but the macro, it's just so, like, if you think about the time horizon of like youth players until they get into high school, there's just so many attempts by way of a swing, by way of a fielding or throwing, that like you can't get consumed on one, because if we look at it from a macro, our goal, our end game is way past that. It's way bigger than that. So it's like, in this moment, it stings. But if I learn from this moment that I was late on my pre-pitch, I took a poor angle, late with my glove presentation, whatever it may be, note to self, eliminate that from happening as consistently. And then over time, you become this more efficient infielder. And who gives a crap when you were 8 or 9 years old? You made that error out in Paris, California, when it was 99 degrees. Like, it's okay. So, in situations, we really teach our kids to do things that are uncomfortable. And sometimes that just means, going attacking a ball and throwing on the run. And it feels awkward. The kid's like, I stink at this. And then after a couple, they get better over time. But I'm like, the example I'm making is parents will get really frustrated with a kid who goes to attack a ball on the run, that they would rather him stay flat-footed and catch the ball with alligator hands and then throw the ball over the top from one slot and get the out, because their ego and self-esteem as a parent is so invested in their kid's performance at 9 years old that now it affects that relationship. But like, if you're thinking about the macro, or if you're just a coach looking at the potential and the skill of this player, you're fired up that this kid went to go attack a ball, one-hand lane, fielded it, pressed through, and just threw the ball away. Like,
love it.
That's such a tremendous attempt. Like, can't you applaud the attempt of that? Like, yeah, we would have rather it made it to the chest of the first baseman, but like, we got to see like big picture, long game here. And I think so many parents get very consumed with their kid's performance. And I really feel for the kid, because they're not dumb. They feel that. They see the body language off to the side of a practice, their parents getting frustrated or getting overly excited. Like, if they look over and they make a play and the parent gets overly excited, then they feel like they need to do that every time. If they do the opposite and they see their parent get overly frustrated, they are now shut down. Like, how would you feel if you were in the office as a working professional and you sent the wrong email and you look over and your boss is flipping out? probably not good, right? Probably a little more conserved and stay within your confine, not be as creative, not be as collaborative. So that's my rant on that. But I truly feel for that relationship between the infielder and parent right there, as the parent as a spectator, it's got to be that. They want to clear the pathway for everything the kid has to struggle with on its way to develop. So it's that I'm very passionate about that, and I try to help the kids out as best I can. It's tough.
And I like how you worded it. Like, we got to look at the big picture because, going to field it on the run and with the lower arm slot, did he make the play? Did she make the play then? Maybe not, but you're going to want to know how to do that in a couple of years. Because if not, if you try and play it safe and stay in your comfort zone, kids are going to pass you up. So I love how you put that. Like, you can't just look at it as a 9-year-old playing in this tournament in February of 2024. No, let the kid develop, because down the line, I'm telling you, it's going to pay off.
And that goes for every pitcher. If you're a hitter, like anything, I think that's got to be that's got to be the thought process there for youth kids to develop. The mental side, coach, anything, I think I'm trying to think back to what really helped me. And I think mostly it was like my preparation. Like, I worked really hard just because I loved the game, and I understand like my North Star was playing MLB, and I saw what those people looked like, and I saw how far away I was from that. And I was like, well, the only thing I could do is work. So, and that's what I could control. And I'm trying to think, there's a lot of times, when you think about, you want to succeed, there's no better feeling than going 4 for 4, making a web jam. You're on cloud 9. Like, your mental state is just in bliss. But when it's the opposite, it's just like you want so bad to have success that you'll do anything. Like, you start to chase the game. And we played long enough to know that's the negative response to actually get what you want to achieve. And that, I think you just have to sit back and let preparation, you have to stay the course. Like, don't help me out here, coach. Finish what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and with preparation, it's one of those, you can, if you're prepared, more times than not, you're going to succeed. Where I see issues at the moment are kids don't put in the extra work, practices, and I can speak to this because I am a coach. Practices aren't 100%. We're not giving 100% effort, and it shows in a game, but we expect to be great. And this is something I'm always preaching at my clinics is, you'll sit here and you'll be like, I want to be great. I want to go 4 for 4, and I want to be the starting shortstop. And then I see your work ethic at practice, which is not good. And then you go to a game, you look the same, but then you start whining. I'm so frustrated. I didn't get a hit, or I'm making errors. And I'm always like, oh, well, yeah, because that's exactly what you look like at practice. So we have to be realistic with ourselves. Hey, am I putting in the work to where, and I always say practice should be hard. Games, you shouldn't have to think. It should be second nature. I shouldn't say it should be easy, but it really should. Like, practice is the hard part, but be real with yourself. Are you putting in 100% every time? If not, I'm sorry, you don't get to complain. That's just, it is what it is.
Love that. And I think like the game's really hard, and I think it's time to compete there, right? Like, of course you compete in practice, but like, practice is like strategic, breaking things down, like going deep into something boring. If we're doing hand pass stuff, like having a purpose, having, Simon Sinek, Start With Why, was one book that really like sparked my peak interest in like learning and having a purpose for everything I do. Your training should be like that. Everything you do, whether it's a swing, a throw, or fielding a ground ball, should have a purpose. Where that ball arrives in your glove, the grip, the cadence, the pace. So if you're just going and swinging, and then like you think back 15 minutes prior and you don't know what you just did, I don't know, maybe like listen, sometimes that's good therapy, but like you have to have a purpose for what you're trying to achieve. Same thing in your practice. It's a great point, Coach. Like what you put in is what you get out. Your input matches your output. So like if you're putting in this effort and you're getting that effort with your output, you have to change the input. And that's all user, right? Like you control that. So change something. Stop watching the same movie over and over and over and over. Change something within that movie to watch a different scene. Kids are really good at that because they see it's really easy to want to be good. Like to say you want to be really good, to post yourself, working. It's really easy, but like to really want to be good, it's a sacrifice. There's like, I'll say the word suffering, right? There's suffering you have to go through physically, mentally, because that's the cost. That's the cost to be as good as you could possibly be.
Yeah.
Moving on from that, Coach, we got another question, and I'm gonna read it. A father asked about in Dominican Republic, Japan, training kids young and often with great quote unquote results. Thoughts on year-round baseball or softball? And now you're in a different state, Florida. You have the opportunity to play all year round. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't love it. Now, it depends on, well, even if you're older, I still don't love it. I just don't think it's good for the body. And I'm not saying if you feel you're 15, 16 and it's winter that you should just take off 5 months. No, like if you want to go hit for sure. But what I see in Florida, and I'm sure you see it in California, is teams, and let's just say 10U, are practicing as a team all year round, and they get maybe 2 weeks, a week in the summer, maybe 2 weeks at the holidays in the winter. And I don't love it. One, it's not good for the body, but two, I really think it's important we let these kids play other sports. I think it's very beneficial to let them play other sports. I played 3 sports in high school, volleyball, basketball, softball, and I loved it. But I knew softball was my number one. So we talked about kind of the sacrifice and the struggle is after maybe basketball practice one couple days a week, I would go and hit off the net because I knew softball is my number one. But and I've said this before. I can't remember who I was talking to. So my husband grew up in Florida, and that's all he kind of knew or knows is you play year round because you can, and there's the trade-off of the kids who do play year round are usually a little bit better because they have more reps. It's just, I think just finding that like fine line of give your kid a rest, but also if they want to work on their own, that's totally fine. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
No, I align with you on the global theme of I think a youth sport, multiple sport athlete is super beneficial for the long-term athlete. Like the bigger picture, right? Like we want the kid to play competitively in high school to have a chance to play in college. Like, that's when it gets more serious. There's stakes involved, right? So that's when I think we could start to specify, right? Like when it's getting really competitive, I think that's a place the kids mature. But like where we enter, like how we enter our high school years is super, super impactful on the output or the type of baseball, softball player your potential could be. So if you have someone who's only played baseball their entire life and they head into baseball, they're going to be very, very skilled in baseball. Like they're going to have pretty good skills for the most part. They've been playing, they probably have 1,000 games under their belt, maybe more. But if you take an athlete, I feel, in my opinion, who's played multiple sports their entire life, and they had the outlier sport, baseball, but they put themselves in environments where they were the best, they were the worst. They put themselves in environments where the game strategy changed, where focus was more on their feet or tracking skills or like evading skills. They've been on both sides of the like they have to play offense, defense in different settings. They have worked out
Been coached by different people.
Learning how to play under really good coaches, really bad coaches. learning how to communicate with teammates that are better and worse than you. I just think like there's so much that comes out of a kid being exposed to different athletic environments and just athletic development in general. Learn how to sprint, learn how to change direction. Because all of that stuff increases your potential. It increases your potential pool to now you walk into baseball with all these weapons at 14, 15, like you're a dude. Like you have so much to offer to the game of baseball with such, I think also just such a great perspective. And I think also a freshness for the game because you haven't played 50,000 games of just baseball for the past 8 years. Like you've got exposed to different sports and that's super important to the psyche of an athlete is just to change of scenery, right? Like we all need it. Our coaches, we do different things to change it up because it just gets you outside your comfort zone, right? And maybe you learn how to fail in basketball, right? Because you stink and you're not so hard on yourself because you didn't play that much. But then when you go to baseball now, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Like I'm human. Like I understand the game, what the game's trying to teach me. And I learned that in basketball that I could apply now to baseball, softball. So I'm super about it. I play multiple sports. I played basketball and baseball in high school, always knowing my North Star was baseball, but understanding I needed to be more than just a good hitter in baseball. I needed to be more than just a good fielder. Like I had to be a good athlete if I wanted to compete. The stakes are higher. Everyone's getting better. And there's no doubt, like California, really good region, right? Florida, really good region. I get it. I understand, but like it's not going anywhere. I think you could still be just as good if you play multiple sports. And for the parents, change up the scenery, man. Like I know the parents are sick of watching baseball at times. So I think 100% that even if you want to stay with your travel team, you have a good group as a unit, go play flag football. Like I see a lot of teams do that. Like, hey, our travel club is going to go play flag football this season or basketball this season together because we like hanging out with each other or something. Just play a different sport.
Yeah. Yeah, there's really no harm in it. You know, some people are like, oh, well, they're gonna get hurt. It's like, okay, you can get hurt walking down the street, you know.
100%.
So yeah, and I'm not saying if you want to do softball, baseball all year round, you go right ahead. What I see is coaches at such a young age are mandatory team practices, and it's like, come on.
All year round. And
All year round, yeah.
it's tough. And it's sometimes I play so many games, it's like what we gotta develop, right? We gotta develop when do we develop the athlete? You know, like you don't just snap your fingers and you're this tremendous athlete who's strong, physical, agile. That doesn't just happen. So like when you're gonna start that process when you arrive on high school? No, like it's a long process that I think has to be exposed at an early age. But again, I do have, I have kids who like I eat, sleep, breathe baseball, and that's who I am. Respect.
Sure.
Do you?
Right.
That's your happy place. All good. The next question from a coach or parent, I guess that was the same question. It was just talking about like, do you train kids all year round? Do you force them to take breaks? I don't force them to do anything. If I feel like they're burnt out, I'll communicate with the athlete or parent that I think we need to take, think about if you want to take a break off. I don't force them to do anything because built-in breaks happen throughout the year, vacations, tournaments where we don't see each other at times, and it's healthy. They come back. It's fresh. It's new. It's exciting. Are they maybe a little rusty? Who cares? I like it. Doesn't matter. But like, I think those just happen inevitably throughout the school year and stuff. So we don't force that or anything. How about you?
No, and it's funny. I think it was you posted recently. Was it your old house, that front stoop that you
Yeah,
play wall ball?
That was where some of my best work was done.
So I feel like we're around the same age. Like us growing up, it was lessons, at least for me in Ohio, weren't a thing. It just like wasn't a thing. Granted, my dad was a college baseball coach, so I had him, but I really didn't work with him a ton. What I did was I'd go in the backyard with my brother. We would play anything and everything, wiffle ball, home run derby over the house. I'd play wall ball. So it's something like that. I know that, you had that stoop, which I feel like it was such a common thing for us when we were younger, just find a wall and a ball.
So many
But
people
it's
are like, oh my God, I had that. And it's awesome. Like, I think that, like, it was cool to hear how many coaches or even parents are like, oh my God, I did the same thing. And it's like, let's make sure your kid does.
Right. Well, and kids, and I don't want to say all kids, it's just not as common to go outside and just like mess around. Just get a rock and get an old bat and, hit the rock. And I know in that question that they mentioned, well, the kids in the DR, and it's like, okay, kids in the DR not many are taking private lessons or having organized team practices all year round. No, they're going out playing backyard baseball, whatever, doing whatever they want to do. And I think that's what makes kids really great, is if you want to do it all year round, great, go outside, get a ball, throw it against the wall, work on your hands.
Absolutely. And I'm grateful for having grown up in New York and having seasons that forced me to play other sports. Even if I wanted to play baseball year round, maybe I would have, maybe I wouldn't, but I didn't have the opportunity to. So it forced me to get creative and do other things and meet new people, have new experiences. Coach, anything else you want to add, like that maybe heading into that you want to touch on?
Now, I just one little point that you made, which we kind of touched or we talked about it, but was just, development is, and this goes for coaches, travel ball coaches, because I've seen, and this was in North Carolina, there was a team, I think they played all year round, or they played, let's just say it was 2021. There was a 10U team, and I want to say they played 30 or 40 tournaments or something. And I think parents equate tournaments with, we're getting our money's worth. This is so great. It's fun. But at any age, especially young age, you should not be playing that near as many tournaments as like that 20 to 30. It should be, I don't know. I don't even want to say numbers, like
There's 12
7 a
months in a
season,
year. Think
maybe.
about, like, 12 months in a year. Say you played one a month. That's 12. That's a lot. But I agree, and you made me remember. I thought, like, I just, having been here on the West Coast now for like 4 years and going through a cycle of kids who entered high school and left or entered college and left, you just see like a lot of burnout in kids out here. Like they get to high school and they already feel like I felt at the end of college. Like, I didn't think baseball was a job until I got to college because of just the environment. And now I'm playing for a university and trying to get to the next level. And it got stressful. I was like, whoa, there's like for me, there was a lot of pressure. And these kids feel that I feel like it's getting earlier and earlier, 12U, 11U, and going to these like macro tournaments and having so much pressure to win and being so like consumed with winning. Like, I'm like, no, I think we're losing a point. Like, you want to win, but it should be a
For
byproduct of
sure.
the work you put in. The focus should just be on the work you're doing. So I think that's something to think about. Like, make sure this stays a game that you enjoy, because if you don't, you're not going to put your full effort in. You're not going to show up tomorrow like excited to grind and suffer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you gotta, let's say it's summer ball and you do 6 tournaments or whatever, plenty, because you, as especially the young kids, you have to teach them at practice how to do things correctly. And you can't do that when you're playing all year round. And yeah, kids are going to get burned out. I would, if I was playing now, I'd get burned out. It's like, just like adults have to take PTO because they get burned out working every day, all day. So it's just, yeah, like you said, 100%. I'm going to teach you how to be competitive and how to have a winning mentality. But I'm also not going to go into Sunday's bracket day and bring in guest players just to win. Like, that fires me up, and I don't even want to get
That
into that
gets me
topic.
going.
I don't know who you
Ah,
think you are.
why at 10 years
But
old are we
that's
flying
wild.
kids in?
Wild. But and I know for those who maybe don't see it, they're like, oh, that's like a one-off situation. The amount of times I see and hear it is it truly blows my mind that you have youth coaches doing that to just simply win instead of developing their own players. So no, we don't. Yeah, we're going to teach them how to win and be competitive, but we're also going to we're going to develop them as we should.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Oh, so much, and that's why it's always so good to have coaches like you who've been there, done that, and also like see the bigger picture, right? Like it's more than just softball that we're coaching. It's more than baseball and softball that I'm coaching. It's bigger than that. Like we're trying to mentor this youth athlete not only to be healthy and successful, but like the sport is life, right? Like life becomes your sport soon. So we're trying to set them up to learn from sport lessons to then evolve to life lessons. But Coach, if you could look back to a young Meg Rem, what are some things you would tell her now? She was entering high school or middle school. Like what anything jump out at you?
Yeah, calm down because not everything is the end of the world. And I know I talked that was more so with my failure, but man, I was so hard on myself, which I think it's good to a degree because I'm still am very, very, very competitive. But I just there were times like I wasn't able to enjoy myself as much, but I also, and I'm not going to blame this on anyone else. I never really saw or had anyone talk me through, hey, you're gonna fail. It was always just like you expected to perform well, and if you don't, and my parents were they never said a word to me. I'm so thankful for that. It was just myself. Like I always felt like I let the team down. And I would get so mad and upset and so if I had any advice, it's like calm yourself. You're great. Just chill out.
Love that. I think that's a great message to send. And we gotta, I think parents should go take BP and take ground balls and try and throw a strike before they sign up for a travel ball organization. I think parents need to listen. If your kid is acting up and behaviorally being a jerk on the field, throwing helmets, if the coach doesn't address that, you have to. That's where you step in. But like other than that, like screaming out, get your back elbow up, screaming out, catch the ball, screaming out things that they already know aren't going to help that relationship. It's not going to help your son or daughter succeed in the next pitch. Like I think just be the spectator there. Don't try and be a coach. Like that's why you bring coaches to other people to help them. And it's real. It's something I'm passionate about for the youth athlete. They want it so bad. They want to be successful. Understand that. Have empathy. They're trying. If they're like, let them fail. Let the game be their teacher, like we said earlier.
Yeah.
Coach Meg Rem, thank you so much for at 38 weeks pregnant coming on the
Of
podcast.
course.
This
Give me
is
something to do. I'm here for it.
She's like, tomorrow, podcast 2.
All right.
Yeah, we got it. Best of luck. Sending all the best wishes to you and your family. Such a tremendous time for you. And
Thank you.
can't wait to see your family in a couple weeks.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, Coach.